Marion Williams has been recently appointed as the Vice Chair for the newly formed Newcastle United Fan Advisory Board. I had the pleasure of meeting with and interviewing Marion about 18 months ago on this particular street here about Newcastle United, of which she's passionate about. And I can understand why the PIF and the other Newcastle United owners were really keen to get Marion Williams on board, because she can help smooth the way and create connections to hopefully facilitate Newcastle United making big decisions about St James's Park. So in this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. It's coming up. Welcome back, it's Eddie here from Tyneside Life. So I'm back again sooner than I had anticipated, because I had deliberately taken some time out to concentrate on my other channel called Eddie Hope. You can find the link at the bottom of the homepage on this channel, in order to kind of get that channel off the ground and for it to be monetized. That's already happened far sooner than I'd ever expected. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits. So I'm back with Tyneside Life. It's going to be a little bit different. I have improved my videography and editing skills. I use different cameras and different software. Not that you'll kind of see it in this particular video. You will on the other videos on my other channel, and you will in some of the upcoming videos I'm going to be doing on this channel, where I'm going to be doing lots of kind of cultural stuff about the Tyneside area, kind of creating, if you like, mini documentaries about particular areas of Tyneside that I think you're going to be fascinated with. I'll be moving away from the day-to-day Newcastle United football stuff and the match-to-match review things that I used to do kind of on and off. My hope is, and aim is, to produce less videos but of better quality. So if all of that appeals to you and you're new here, you're just landing here, please consider subscribe and hitting that bell, so every time I release a new video you'll get a notification. Now, this particular video is video number 4 in a series of videos that you can find in my stadium expansion and relocation playlist. It's in light of the recent fan engagement review about what Newcastle fans feel about either a rebuild or an expansion or building a new stadium somewhere else in the Newcastle city centre. It's also as part of the club's feasibility study that's currently ongoing in relation to the things I've just talked about what the club can and can't do, what they will and won't do. And none of us know what the outcome of that's going to be. I'm probably certain that the club owners don't even know what they're going to be doing at the moment. So this particular little series of videos, this is number 4, is going to be concentrating on the little various aspects of what could possibly happen. It seemed to be an ideal opportunity, perfect timing really, on the back of an article that was published by Luke Edwards, who's the Newcastle United journalist, if you like, for The Telegraph. He released an article on the 1st of March which talked about the very things that I'm talking about now. Overall, I wasn't very impressed with the article, because it can lead good people like yourself to go off on a tangent of misunderstanding, because there are 3 or 4 things in that particular article which I know to be factually incorrect, and I've already covered some of it in 1 or 2 of the videos preceding this particular one. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that and Luke Edwards and what he's claimed when I do a video about the arena land area right by the River Tyne, which I think you're going to find really fascinating. There are things and information I need to talk about and let you know about, but also some implications for that particular area of land that could have a bearing on what Newcastle can and can't do. So back to Marion Williams, and as I said, I had the pleasure of meeting her and interviewing her about 18 months ago. There are some things that are revealed about who she was in that particular video and that interview I'd done with her, which I'm going to show very shortly in this video, but also 1 or 2 things I deliberately left out because she asked me not to mention anything, but now it's all kind of in the public domain. Many of you probably don't realise, you might have missed it, about her other responsibilities, but she's a fascinating lady. She lives in Leazes Terrace, which is a big bone of contention and hot debate about what the club can do with St James's Park in relation to those Grade 1 listed buildings. But as I mentioned, she's also a season ticket holder with Newcastle United and has been for many years, just as passionate as me and you. One of her other responsibilities, among some I'm going to mention in a minute, is that she's the chair of the Friends of Leazes Park Conservation Group. So if you recall, in video number 3, Back in 1997, Sir John Hall had planned to build a brand new stadium just 100 metres over there in Castle Leazers, which just encroached onto the back end of Leazers Park there. And the council give their thumbs up to the idea. The Freemen of Newcastle give their thumbs up, but it was blocked by protests, in part led by the Friends of Leazers Conservation Group, who took exception to the history and culture of Newcastle being destroyed by a football stadium. It generated a petition that got 36,000 signatures from conservation groups, from local residents. Sir John Hall said, this is just going to be too messy, too complicated and too expensive, so he pulled out. And just as importantly, which I didn't mention the first time I interviewed her, Marion Williams is also a Labour councillor for Blakelaw, but she also sits, more importantly, on the Newcastle City Council Planning Committee. For example, one of Marion's responsibilities as part of the Newcastle City Council Planning Committee is spearheading an initiative to pedestrianise the whole of Blackett Street going down to High Bridge Street West. This isn't a new idea. It kind of fell apart a couple of years ago, but she's trying to get that started up again, in part because this particular area of the city centre suffers the highest levels of air pollution. So you're probably beginning to appreciate now the kind of power and influence that Marion Williams has in the local area. She can create connections, obviously now not only with the club as the vice chair of the Fan Advisory Board, but with the council and with the Freemen of Newcastle, but also local conservation groups and other important stakeholders. She's going to be absolutely crucial to that whole process of Newcastle United deciding what they can and can't do, and Marion kind of smoothing and paving the way to facilitate those positive relationships so that Newcastle United can hopefully get what they want for the fans. So has Marion Williams' views and attitudes cooled since 1997? What does she think today about St James's Park possibly encroaching onto Leazers Park? This is what she said. So there's lots of complications in terms of conservation and listed buildings in this area. I believe we're on the boundary of the Leazers conservation area where we stood right now, and there's a lot of talk now of stadium expansion possibilities. Hypothetically, if St James's Park was to kind of be rebuilt and moved 20 metres or so into Leazers Park, what would happen now, 25 years on from the complications in 97?
I think it would be a different conversation. I think with the way that our parks don't have the funding that they need, and government is whittling away the money we're not making any more, the conversation is the trade-off in taking some of Leazers Park but putting some money into the park, bring it back to its former glory, repair all the old buildings and the pavilion, put in a decent children's playground, do all the things that we struggle to do without the money. It's a conversation to be had.
So Mehrdad Gadusi, Jamie Rubin and Amanda Staveley give you a ring saying, Marion, we've got an idea. You'd be willing to sit down and have a conversation about it?
I'd certainly want to be part of that conversation alongside Urban Green, who run the parks now and are continually looking for ways to fund their work.
Yeah, I imagine you're quite conflicted.
Absolutely.
Being the Newcastle season ticket holder, but also heavily involved with conservation and protecting the heritage of Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, I choose to live in a listed building and all that entails, and would normally say, well, I'd protect that with my life. But for me, 25 years on, do I want to live in a very different environment to the one I bought into? Being so close to my seat in the ground has, always been an immense pleasure. But I think if you just walk away and say no, that doesn't do what's right for everybody. And I think it's a conversation to be had.
So who would have thought that an interview I did with Marion Williams about 18 months ago would become so important and relevant today? So there was two areas that we basically covered. The first was that revisit of the 97 plan by Sir John Hall and whether the conservation group would have a different attitude. And I think you probably detect, like I did, that I think times have moved on. There could be some room for conversation. It's actually my favourite opinion on a rebuild for St James's Park, but also the idea of possibly moving St James's Park from its current footprint 30 to 40 metres northwest away from Leazers Terrace to give a bit more scope to kind of rebuild the stadium, and they've invested and employed the services of Populous, who were involved in the rebuilding of Spurs' stadium, to look at that and other possibilities. Now, who am I to criticise or judge? It seems like it's completely possible to do that. That would mean probably a complete rebuild whilst all that's going on. That creates a real huge problem as to where Newcastle United would play for 2 years, and that isn't an easy solution to get round. It's not one of my favourite ideas. If you see plans floating around on social media where there's a new stadium built in its entirety inside St Leazes Park, where I'm stood now on this Victorian bandstand, my advice to you would be to completely ignore it. It's nonsense. It's not going to happen in a month of Sundays. So I hope you found the video informative and insightful. I find it fascinating researching all of this stuff, and it gives you a little bit more information so that you can help formulate your own opinions on what might and what might not happen. The next video I'm going to do, like I said, is the arena land. You really need to see an update on that particular land. But in the meantime, while I'm making that, why don't you watch this particular video, video number 3, just to refresh your memory.